All right, let's get into this. Because in Japan, one of the most famous holidays in the world is going through a total revolution. It's a story about the death of social obligation and the birth of a very delicious and, a very selfish new tradition.
And it all kicks off with a pretty wild question. To really get what's happening with Valentine's Day in Japan, you have to understand why some of the most expensive, high-end chocolates now taste, well, a little bit like soy sauce. And no, this isn't some weird gimmick. It's a full-blown chocolate revolution.
So, to understand what's happening now, we kind of have to attend a funeral first. The funeral for a super stressful, uniquely Japanese tradition that honestly defined Valentine's Day for decades. This was called girichoko, which literally means obligation chocolate. And let's be real here, this was less of a gift and more like a social tax. It was something that Japanese women, especially, were just expected to do to keep the peace at work. And between us, they secretly hated it for years.
And wow, the collapse of this tradition has been so fast. Recent numbers show that around 40% of women have just completely stopped doing it.
This isn't some slow, gradual fade. It's a mass exodus from a tradition that just didn't make sense anymore.
So what finally killed it? Well, it was a perfect storm, really. First, the global cacao shock made chocolate way too expensive to be just some casual obligation. Second, with the rise of remote work, that face-to-face office pressure, poof, it was gone. And finally, everyone started saying the quiet part out loud. The whole thing was tatamae, a public facade that had nothing to do with their true feelings or hane.
But as this old tradition died, something new and way more expensive was born. The hole left by girichoko was filled by a new Valentine, yourself.
Just take a look at this number, 10,662 yen. That's about 70 bucks. According to one big department store in Tokyo, this is now the average amount women are spending on Valentine's chocolate for themselves. And this right here really shows you the new pecking order on Valentine's Day. The budget for jibun choco, or chocolate for yourself, is now literally double the average budget for a romantic partner. The main event of Valentine's is officially you.
Yeah, looking at who gets the chocolate tells the whole story. Now, you might notice these numbers add up to more than 100%. That's just because people are buying from more than one category. But look, family and yourself are way up at the top. Meanwhile, obligation chocolate has shrunk down to almost nothing. And there's this fascinating new category, oshi, which means giving chocolate to your favorite pop idol or even an anime character.
And you gotta understand, this is so much more than just eating fancy candy. In a society that has always put the group first, splurging on yourself like this has become this huge, powerful statement of self-worth and personal freedom. It's a really big deal.
Okay, so this brings us right back to the mystery. Because when people are spending more than ever on chocolate for themselves, they want something truly special, right? And that has led to this massive explosion of creativity, which brings us right back to soy sauce.
The top chocolatiers will tell you, this is not about being weird just for clicks. They're using traditional Japanese ingredients, or wasazai, to basically reclaim this Western holiday. They're turning it into a showcase for Japanese culinary science and making it completely their own.
So how does this even work? Well, the secret is just pure food science. That umami flavor you get from things like soy sauce and miso, plus the saltiness, it doesn't fight with the chocolate. It actually tricks your brain into perceiving the chocolate's sweetness on a deeper level. It creates this much more complex, savory, and totally unforgettable flavor.
And trust me, it goes way beyond just soy sauce. We are seeing a complete explosion of new ideas. Luxury stores are infusing chocolates with rare teas, like persimmon leaf or black bean. Others are using regional red wines or traditional Japanese spirits like shochu. Every single piece of chocolate is becoming its own little story about Japanese flavor.
So the most important thing to take away here is that this whole chocolate revolution, it's a mirror. It's reflecting a much bigger change that's happening all across Japanese society. It's like a quiet rebellion against the social pressures of the past.
Think about it. By killing a tradition that was all about social pressure, Japan is totally transforming Valentine's Day. It's not just about individualism. It's a response to decades of a tough economy and changing gender roles. It's a whole generation shifting towards expressing real, authentic affection for their family, their partner, or, most importantly, for themselves.
And this new focus on real value, it goes beyond just chocolate now. People are choosing gifts that are practical and high quality. The logic makes sense, right? Girichoko was basically losing money for a hollow social gain.
But giving someone designer socks or a nice dinner cruise, that's seen as a real investment in a relationship or in your own happiness. It's a shift from empty gestures to something real.
Which leaves us with a really fascinating question about the future. Japan has essentially swapped a culture of obligation for a culture of self-reward. So, is this a healthy step towards individualism and self-care in a country that's finally shedding old burdens? Or is it a sign of a society that's turning inward, maybe becoming more isolated and selfish? That's a debate that goes way beyond a simple box of chocolates.